Hello, and welcome to Of the People. America is fighting back, and it is everywhere you look. All around the country, Americans are finally stepping up, and they're finally speaking up and speaking out against the divisiveness and the moral depravity, frankly, of wokeism and DEI, which has up until now infiltrated every facet of American society. But I'm happy to say, no more. Americans are pushing back in real and meaningful ways through legislation, through consumer action, through corporate resistance, and finally cultural shifts. And the truth be told, we have Donald Trump, the fighter, to thank for it. For it was Trump and his pugnacious, how shall we call it, Queens, New York style that gave courage back to the everyday Americans to stand up and fight back for the traditional values. And really, folks, it's just for common sense. But it's at all levels. At the state level, Florida Governor DeSantis signs laws banning DEI offices in state universities from hiring practices based on government jobs, outlawed critical race theory in K-12 education and corporate training. Same in Texas, where the state passed laws shutting down DEI programs in public colleges and prohibiting race and gender quotas in hiring and education. And in 2025, states like Missouri, North Carolina, and Georgia all have put up similar legislation and similar measures to eliminate DEI at all levels. Federal government, you're seeing the same thing, where they're trying to basically, I guess the word would be exorcise, as an exorcist, meaning to get the demons out, government agencies of the military and any federally funded institutions. And you're seeing the same in major corporations, which were once the vanguard of DEI. And they're now not only facing a backlash from their consumers, but they're facing a backlash from their stockholders. Just to name a few, who can forget the woke failure of Bud Light, whose sales have still not come back in 2025, notwithstanding the Super Bowl commercials. Disney, another icon of DEI, after several woke flops at the box office that were DEI films, have now backed off their position and are scaling back their initiative, so much so to the point where Disney CEO Bob Iger has basically said that they're no longer going to push, what did he call it, ideological content. You're seeing the same now on Wall Street. Firms like Vanguard, State Street, they're reducing their focus and emphasis on ESG, which is another sort of business arm of wokeism, which is environmental, social, and governance policies, right? ESG, all these acronyms, right? ESG, DEI. McDonald's, AT&T all rolled back their DEI-driven hiring quotas and training programs because, quote unquote, they need to return to merit-based policies. That's nice. I wonder where they heard that from. But really, it's in education, and then we'll get to culture in a second, where parents have emerged as an incredibly powerful force against DEI and wokeism and woke indoctrination in the schools. And you're seeing across the country, conservatives have won control of school boards in states, battleground states, right? Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada. And you're seeing newly elected governors and legislatures in states like Arizona and Kentucky. They've all joined the fight against gender ideology. And there's a reason the data shows record high homeschooling rates, because parents want influence and want to know what's going on and what their children are being taught. This isn't rocket science. Speaking of which, Americans are launching more lawsuits against DEI, challenging race-based discrimination, some of which will undoubtedly make its way to the Supreme Court. Stay tuned for future entertainment there. And employees, both public and private sector, are challenging initiatives in the workplace that require them to go through DEI sensitivity training. But perhaps more important than any of that, beyond the politics, beyond the law in all of this, there's a cultural awakening or a cultural pushback. Rumble, Truth Social, other free speech platforms, whose growth is certainly outpacing the mainstream media. They've continued to grow, they're drawing users. And notwithstanding the woke Oscars in Hollywood itself, after many box office flops, is shifting back towards, let's call it, traditional storytelling. I think they have a long way to go. But perhaps the surest sign that wokeism is in retreat is in comedy, where you see more comedians, including mainstream figures who really once tried to avoid any controversy or being canceled, are now openly mocking the woke culture. That's a sure sign of retreat. And all of this is because of Donald Trump and the bullet, right? That continued fight after even being shot at. And the pushback at this point against DEI and wokeism, frankly, feels like a national movement where we're demanding a return to merit or meritocracy, free speech, and individual responsibility. And the fight is far from over, but the momentum, undeniable. America is taking back its institutions, its workplace, and its schools from the grips of wokeism. Finally, America is fighting back. And that's the monologue.